Hi all, thanks so much for joining. I hope you're having a great week so far. Welcome to Lessons from DORA 2025, the future of DevOps powered by AI, centered on the findings from the 2025 DORA Report. We're thrilled to be joined by an incredible panel of industry leaders. Nathan Harvey, who's always a pleasure to work with, representing the DORA research team, Ale Natrielli, Director of DevOps, DevSecOps at Eaton, Bill Spanks, the IT Technology Manager at NextEra, and our very own Kumar, co-founder and CEO of Opsera. From today, we hope you take away why DORA metrics still matter in the age of AI, insights from this year's report, applicable lessons from our industry leaders on the call today, best practices for overcoming challenges with AI and orchestration, as well as actionable strategies for how you can build your engineering teams. And just some housekeeping, this will be recorded and shared afterwards. So with that, Nathan, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. And hello, everyone. I'm Nathan Harvey. I lead up the DORA team here with Google Cloud. I'm so excited to be here today. And I want to start off by thanking Opsera for being a gold sponsor for this year's DORA report. It's always great working together with Opsera and helping some of your customers take the ideas from DORA and put them into action. So DORA recently released our latest report. This year's report is called The State of AI Software Development. The state of AI-assisted software development. And one of the top findings that we have this year is that AI's primary role in software development is that of an amplifier. It really looks at organizations, or as we look at organizations, we see those organizations that are thriving and doing really well. As they introduce AI, they tend to accelerate a lot of their outcomes. But we also find that organizations where they're struggling, AI kind of amplifies those struggles and makes those pain points a little bit more acute. But let's take a look at how we're doing across adoption and use of AI. And what this slide shows you here is that 90% of our survey respondents are using AI at work. Now, DORA collects its data through a survey, most of its data through a survey, and we had nearly 5,000 survey respondents this year. Those respondents come from organizations around the world of every shape and size, so organizations just like yours. In fact, maybe you participated in our survey. If so, thank you. But what we can see here is that AI adoption is nearly universal. We probably won't ask this question next year. We'll just assume that everyone is using AI at least somewhat in their professional work. But we want to go beyond just adoption. And on the next chart, you see reliance. So reliance is really asking, yes, you use it, but do you rely on AI for a particular set of tasks? And we see a large proportion of our survey respondents are relying on AI in their daily work. In fact, 95% are relying on AI at least a little bit. And another really interesting stat that we looked at, we asked this question in a recent working day about how many hours did you spend interacting with AI? I think this is a good thing to throw into the chat if that's available to you. About how many hours did you spend yesterday interacting with AI? There are a couple of things that I always like to point out on this slide. The first is all the way on the right-hand side. Some of our survey respondents, it is a very small number, reported interacting with AI for 12 hours during a recent working day. Wow, 12 hours of interacting with AI in a working day? That sounds like you're working too much. So hopefully some of you can sort of dial back what you're working on and strive for that work-life balance a little bit stronger. But the other thing that's really fascinating here is that median of 2 hours a day. So across our survey respondents, 2 hours a day is the median answer for how frequently or how long they were interacting with AI. This is really interesting because if you think about a profession like software engineering, there have been studies that ask this question: how frequently do software engineers spend actually writing code or working in their IDE? And it's usually about 30% of their time. 2 hours is approaching 30% of your working day. So I think there's some interesting conclusions that we could maybe draw from that. Although the data doesn't really make those connections, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. And of course, we talked to more than just software developers in our report, and we wanted to understand, how does working with AI impact your own individual productivity? And of course, this is self-reported. Do you feel more productive, or how do you feel AI has changed your productivity? And again, we see a large proportion of our respondents are saying that it is increasing their own productivity, with a 5% or so, maybe a little bit less than that, that's saying it's decreasing their productivity. So we see this heavy usage, heavy reliance, and individual productivity improving. Let's open up the aperture a little bit wider and look from individual productivity gains into what about the code bases that you're working with? And what we see here is that actually we're seeing good improvements in our underlying code base that we're working with when we're using AI to interact with that code base. In fact, we see about 7, 9, 10% of our users, sorry, doing some quick math there on the fly, 10% say it's decreasing the underlying quality of their code base, but that means a big portion are saying it either has no impact or the majority saying it is improving the underlying code base. Now, this is really interesting because I think there's kind of two ways that AI can potentially impact the underlying quality of your code. The first, you might be using AI to generate code, and maybe it's generating code faster for you. Maybe you're taking some of that time spent or time saved and addressing maybe some technical debt that you have in the underlying code base. So that could be a real quality boost for that underlying code, whether it's the code that AI has written or the time that you're now able to spend on cleaning up some of those issues that you've had for a while. Another really interesting thing, though, is that AI is really helpful in describing code to us. And so maybe through the description of what this code does, we're able to get better utility out of the existing code. But we take all of these things together, right? We see individual productivity gains, code quality improving. What about trust? This is kind of a paradox here. We see that a good bulk of our respondents trust the output of AI a good bit. But I think the interesting thing here are sort of the two ends of the spectrum. The 11%, the 4% that trust the quality of AI-generated output a great deal, and the 7% that trust it not at all. Frankly, I think that having some healthy skepticism with what's generated by AI is the right way to go. Whether that's code that's generated or the email you're about to fire off to your boss or a particular customer, maybe even the documentation that you've written. I think this is a reminder for all of us as an industry that we need to trust but verify. We need to have those feedback mechanisms in place so that we can evaluate the quality of what AI has given us. So beyond that, we want to understand how is adopting more AI impacting some of these downstream effects that we might see within an organization. And what we see on this chart is we did some simulations with our data. What if we increase the amount of AI adoption that each individual in our survey had? We'll then run a simulation across the data to understand how do the downstream outcomes that we care about, how do they actually change? That dashed line going up the middle would mean that there's zero change. So to the right-hand side of that line, there's an increase, and to the left-hand side of that line, there's a decrease. So what do we find here? Well, first and foremost, we see that individual effectiveness is increasing, and that's relative to the other outcomes, it's increasing the most. But then we see software delivery instability also increasing. And just to be very clear, we'd rather not have instability increase. And yet we are seeing that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments. But we also see organizational performance, time spent doing valuable work, code quality, and product performance all improving. We also see software delivery throughput improving. So this is interesting. We see throughput improving while instability is also increasing. This is a little bit counter or different to what we saw last year. Last year, we saw instability increasing and software delivery throughput dropping off. So I think what we're starting to see now in this data is that teams are starting to adapt to this new way of working. And of course, the technologies are changing very quickly, as well as our ability to get good value out of these technologies. So it's really nice to see throughput sort of turning around. And it's kind of not a surprise, I would say, to see throughput turning around before instability turns around. Perhaps next year we'll see that instability number move to the left-hand side of that dashed line. Certainly that's what we all hope. Rounding out this chart, we have team performance. That's also improving. But then you see burnout and friction. I would say that statistically, those are both basically at zero, which kind of makes sense. If you're working in an environment where you're feeling burnt out and cynical about your work, you're probably not going to change those feelings just by introducing a new tool. But on the positive side, introducing AI as a new tool and a new way of working is also not increasing your burnout or increasing friction. So there's some positive signals to take here, even if they're pretty weak signals. But overall, I think this paints a pretty good picture for the adoption of AI. We see that it's happening everywhere and it's driving real impact that we care about. But let's take a look a little bit deeper here also. And I mentioned that AI is kind of reflecting and amplifying organizational capabilities. So with widespread adoption, we still see varied results in outcomes across teams, whether those outcomes are team performance or product performance or software delivery performance. And so in fact, this year we looked beyond just software delivery performance metrics to look across these 8 different characteristics of teams. We did a cluster analysis to identify are there patterns within our data, and we found these patterns, these 7 different team profiles. These are teams that we gave names like foundational challenges or legacy bottleneck, all the way through to harmonious high achievers. So this led us to a really interesting question. If we're seeing widespread, almost universal adoption of AI, and yet we're still seeing very different results when it comes to outcomes, what's going on there? And so this led us to identify and create the very first ever DORA AI capabilities model. What this does is it helps us understand what capabilities and conditions do teams need to have in place to get the most out of AI. And we identified 7 different capabilities: a clear and communicated AI stance, healthy data ecosystems, making sure that AI has access to your internal data. You're practicing strong version control practices, like frequent check-ins and the ability to roll back changes. But you're also working in small batches, are very focused on your users, and have high quality platforms. Now, taken together, these capabilities give us a nice model. And that model helps us think about the outcomes on the right-hand side. Which outcomes are we really focused on right now as a team? We know that we're all adopting AI, so what capabilities do we need to amplify the impacts that AI adoption will have on each one of those outcomes on the right-hand side? So this is our DORA AI capabilities model. We believe that this first is going to change a lot over time, but we also are seeing very strong signals that these particular capabilities together with AI adoption are driving the best outcomes. So hopefully this gives you some insights into areas where you and your team might start focusing. That's a very quick overview of just a touch of some of the findings from this year's report. I'm really excited today, though, because we get to talk with Ali and with Bill and Kumar about some of the ways that this data and this information is being put into practice in the real world. So I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you. So we'll have a poll question. I'll let Yusra pop up the poll question. So
Awesome, everyone. We'd love to hear, before diving into our opinions, we'd love to hear from you all. So we'd appreciate it if you could vote, so we can see where you're at in your organizations. So this is poll question number 1 launching now. Awesome. Now let's see the results from that.
yeah, I think that looking at the data, Nathan, compared to the data that you just presented, and then it kind of maps in somewhere in the middle, right? Like the adoption wise and early stages developing workflows. It's kind of a marries to the survey data that you guys published last month.
Yeah, I agree. I see a lot of adoption that's happening. Certainly, a majority of folks in today's call are in those early stages, experimenting with AI tools. Frankly, I think that a lot of us feel that way. Even if we've been using AI for maybe 2 years across the software development lifecycle, it still feels like we're in the very early stages and experimenting. And with experimentation comes learning. So I think that's a really positive signal there.
Okay, thank you.
We have 2 more. So this is poll question number 2.
Yeah, please help us provide your input so they'll help us steer the conversation from industry experts and along with Nathan, Ali and Bill and Nathan can chime in and provide their inputs. Please keep it coming. I'm surprised the deployment frequency is not being touched by anyone else. Yeah, I think looks like Nathan, what you just talked about instability, right? In the AI generated code, it's kind of like all the focus around lead time for changes, change failure rate, time to restore. And that is where the majority of the focus and the poll today as well. So it kind of marries to what you just alluded a few minutes back.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also like seeing that some of you are still defining your metrics, and I think that's also a very good insight. I think that metrics are a thing that it takes some time to get right and some experimentation to learn which are the right metrics for your team that are really going to drive the behavior that you want. And in fact, maybe I'll just say a few more words as we go to the next poll, but one of the chapters in this year's report is about helping you define metrics and thinking about different metrics frameworks that you might use when thinking about how to measure things like team performance, product performance, and so forth.
Yeah, before we go there, maybe Ali and Bill, anything you want to add here from your perspective?
A lot of people are basically looking to increase quality by the use of AI tools here, rather than increasing their throughput, right?
Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the lead time for change, it always going to be a metric, right? So it doesn't matter about AI or not. You know, we expect, at least I expect, the lead time for change will improve, or even deployment frequency will improve as we use more AI. But really, what I have seen is the lead time for change is being impacted by really the adoption of more modern architectures. So we still have, especially within IT organizations, a lot of monolithic applications, right? And what I have seen is that the bottleneck is usually on the testing phase. It's not really on the coding phase, you know. So the automation of testing becomes a point of priority for a lot of companies, and how AI can help with testing automation is now the big discussion. I don't think the market is very mature yet. I mean, there are tools out there, and you know, we have experimented with some of them. But the creation of test scripts and rely on the results, that's the challenge, right? So I think more than ever, the DORA metrics is to remain very significant, regardless of AI, basically.
Thank you. That's a good point. And then quality, and then you also about testing. Both are in the similar vicinity. But thank you for your feedback. Over to you, Yusra, for third one.
Awesome. Last one. We're trying something new this year, so thank you guys so much for weighing in. Alrighty, waiting for the votes to come in for this one.
Yeah, get your answers ready. And what's your biggest barrier for scaling AI in software delivery? I think I think Ali and Bill kind of spoke and gave the answers to you already from their point of view.
Last chance. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Anything comment on Nathan, Ali, and Bill? And I think looks like it's kind of evenly split. But trust and governance concerns is the biggest thing out of all of them. Like, it's not that the only thing, because it's 14 people, but that stands out for sure.
Yeah, the trust and governance definitely pops right out. And I think it's really interesting because trust is one of those things that you increase through adoption, right? Adoption and trust kind of have this nice virtuous cycle. The more I use something, the more I trust it. The more I trust something, the more I'm likely to use it, and so forth. So I think that, and that governance is also really interesting as one of the capabilities from the DORA AI capabilities model, having that clear and communicated stance on how and when and where you can use AI within your organization. That's super important. So I'm seeing some really interesting stats here, and definitely maps to some of the findings that we have and the experiences that I have out working with teams in the world.
Ali and Bill, anything you want to touch upon, other topics, other points?
I think I find it interesting, like the answer of trust and governance, especially around trust, because we need to dig more into it. So it's like, is that a trust on AI technology? Is that a trust on the AI output? Or is that a security concern with use of AI, right? And I know a lot of companies are still shy on using AI, and some are seeing it as a big opportunity. Let's jump in because that's the biggest differentiator with your competition. So, you know, what I'm seeing is trust has not been an issue. As far as the output of AI, we're past this security concern with AI, but it's very key that we still hold our developers or architects or whomever is using the AI capabilities accountable for the end result. So we see AI and Copilot and those type of things as helpers other than replacing what a developer is responsible for, as an example. So we always like to emphasize that the quality of the code is still the responsibility of the developer, as an example. So that the trust, I think that's interesting. I mean, I would imagine that you guys are talking more about security trust on AI. And for that, I think that the vendors are more mature now, then they have a lot of guardrails around it.
Thank you. Bill, anything from your side?
Yeah, I think the trust area is basically human nature. And I can sell on the panel here. I'm definitely the oldest guy. I've been through this in the past in another part of my career, back when we were dealing with, like, I used to design like gas turbine engines and stuff like that. And they computing power was, in the early 90s, was going on so fast that they were able to do so much more year over year over year. It's almost exactly like what we're seeing here with the AI tools. And people were scared. They thought that the computer calculations for like finite element analysis and aerodynamics, where it could be wrong, it was going to fail, it could have detrimental causes. And it took them a good 4 or 5 years to really get used to it, using it, and seeing that it came out with the same answers that they would have much faster. I mean, we went from a 10-year cycle to like a 2-year cycle in a gas turbine design. It was amazing. But it took time. It just took time for people to trust it. I mean, nobody gets into their car when they're 16 years old and they believe the car is going to do exactly what they want it to do. You got to learn it, and you got to kind of go through it. And the more people use it, the more they'll start to trust it. They'll see the scenarios. They'll know the quirks. They'll know what they need to do to make sure that they get the right answer.
That's awesome. The good analogy about the car. That's a thank you. Thanks for the input. Okay. With that, and with any of the poll question used, otherwise we'll jump into the panel discussion, right? Okay, let's hear. I know you guys have been already participating and providing input, and maybe start from the panel. Maybe Bill, you ended up. Maybe I can start from you, and then we'll go to the Nathan and Ali. From your standpoint of view, what are the other signals and metrics, and what you guys are using AI adoption with what you're using, and any of the productivity gains and long-term value that you're observing so far?
Yeah, AI adoption, it's so interesting to watch, because not every team is the same. And I love the slide that Nathan had earlier that showed the 7 types of teams, because I've worked with every single one of those. And some of them are jumping right in. They want everything to do. They want the newest technology. They want everything. And some of them, they're scared of it. They don't know what to do. And there's a significant difference depending on what code they're using, what their platform is, where they are. And what you're seeing is that every team's a little different. So if you break your teams down and you see which ones are using it, why are they using it, you got to almost tailor that training and upskill everybody to a certain level in their own work environment, and the stuff that they're working on. And I feel like that's been the most valuable thing, is looking at just what are the teams doing, which teams are really utilizing it, which ones aren't, and what are the obstacles that they have, and really having that customer focus in it.
Thank you. Ali or Nathan?
I think for me, the signs and metrics that will tell you that your AI adoption is adding value or giving you an ROI, right? It's really the speed of delivery of value, right? So as you align what you're delivering with the company outcomes or the value stream outcomes, that's what you need to measure against, right? So back in the day, we were like, we were deploying a lot, but it's like 90% upgrades, 10%, 5% fixes, and 5% aligned with business goals that were defined literally a year ago. So the change with the adopting agile, having more modular deployments, and really tying your delivery to the business outcomes or value stream outcomes at a minimum is key. And then you measure against that. Am I delivering value faster? Regardless of AI or not. But now with AI, if you have a baseline, now you can compare, right? If you have been tracking this type of metrics for a number of years, now you can measure if you're doing it faster. If you don't have a baseline, I'm sorry, but you have nothing to compare.
Yeah, I think that baseline is so, so important to really
Mm,
understand how you're doing today. Unfortunately, I talk to a lot of folks that are asking me, what sort of productivity gains am I going to see? And
mm,
productivity in and of itself is it's such a weird thing, and it's like not well defined. And so I usually ask teams back, well, how are you measuring productivity today? And a lot of
mm.
teams just don't have an answer. So
Yeah.
it is really important to think about that. And
Mhm.
excuse me, I also love what you said. It's about learning AI in your work environment. Yes, we can learn how to use AI tools in a lab setting or in a classroom environment, but what really matters is having the time and space to
Yeah.
experiment with them in our own work so that we can really apply that to the work that we're doing day to day. I also think that, excuse me, we are as an industry spending a lot of time measuring adoption and not measuring the value that we're getting out of that adoption. To be very clear, you can't get impact out of AI if it's not being adopted. But adoption in and of itself is not enough. So being able to put those software delivery metrics next to your AI adoption metrics and next to the business metrics that matter, how do we see all of these moving together is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we touched upon it some time back, and it's like going to gym. It's not about how many times you're going to gym. What is that you're doing in the gym to achieve the outcomes you want to achieve?
Mm.
To Ali's point and to Nathan and Bill's point of view, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the goals that you have, and what is that you're doing to achieve your goals and outcomes? And then, are you doing the right things to get there in the first place? And you have right training and right instructor and right tools you're using to achieve the desired outcome. So with that, and I know like the second, the maybe a couple of more, and if you don't mind, and I'll take the bigger one. And the DORA report, as Nathan mentioned, that AI does not fix the problem, but it amplifies what is already there. How do you guys recommend to be for based on your experience in Bill and Ali, like with using some of the tools and some of the AI tools, measuring the things? What is your learning, and what is that you recommend from your standpoint of view?
For me, and I don't know if I agree with the fact or the statement that it amplifies problems. I think that it just shows you, gives you more visibility with what was already there, right? So, and it's like I can think of on the DevSecOps area, like on the security part of it, right? Like we were doing a lot of AI analysis and and automation. And sometimes we say AI, but it's a lot of automation, and the automation now has AI, right? But the self-restoring of applications on the cloud and stuff like that, but now we have more visibility into vulnerabilities and things like that. So I don't necessarily agree that it amplifies, AI in itself amplifies the problems. I think it gives a lot of opportunities to fix the problems that were already there faster, right? And
Yep.
then the other question was like, how do you start? If I would recommend, I would say start with an AI code assistant at a minimum, right? It starts small. If you're not comfortable with giving AI code assistant to all your developers, perhaps give only to your senior developers first. Because one concern that I had when we started introducing code assistants was with junior developers. Like I was afraid that they would just accept whatever the AI was telling them without really, having the expertise. And so that we did talk about maybe only making it available to senior developers, but then the fairness, right, was not there. And so what we did was emphasize that code quality and your end code is still the responsibility of the developer, doesn't matter which level you are. And we enforce code reviews and all those other best practices as well. But code assistants, they're getting so good, that if you don't use them, you're really missing out.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I agree exactly with what you're saying, Ali. It's definitely one of the big things that I see here, and I think that the number one thing you should do, and it kind of goes into what you guys were talking about in the last question, is setting up that baseline. Because if you don't set up, if you're going to prepare to bring AI in, you want that baseline. You want to be able to look at what's going on. so that you can know what changes you're making and if you're making the right changes. I think that a lot of people, and MIT wrote a big article about this, that they're using AI like Google, and there's like something like 70% of the people that are saying they're using AI are just basically using it as a search engine, right? The real thing is to get in there, and you guys will get tired of me talking car stuff, but if you look at like F1 racing, right? I feel like the DORA metrics are like your lap times. Okay, these cars go around the lap, go around the lap, go. And back in the 70s, everybody just they only cared about lap times. But somewhere in the late 90s, 2000, everybody went into big time data in order to try to see what's going on. And you can't make your changes off of just a lap time anymore. How do you know if you should get 20% gains or 10% gains? You might be ecstatic with 20% gains, but your entitlement is actually 50% gains, right? So you really have to get a better granularity. And that's one of the reasons why, we were looking at Opsera as well, right? Was to get better granularity. We want to know every turn, in exit of the turn, inlet to the turn, what the straights are, how we're going to move things, so that we know where we can make these improvements throughout the day without affecting the overall lap time. So you want to make sure that your time to product stays the same or better, right? But you also want to make sure you're not increasing your support costs. You're not putting a bunch of technical debt in there. You're making sure that everything works out in the better, and you're looking at your total cost of ownership, right? So if you don't get everything set up so you can measure and you can show that improvement on your total cost of ownership, and you're looking at the overall what's improving in the process, and your entitlement, I think you can really miss out on a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think not to be overly like baseline. I think that just recapping what you guys talked about it just for the benefit of the audience. And baseline, it's a great point, and also like not just looking at the one metric and focus on ensuring that what you are changing, and then when that is an outcome, you should have a way to measure them in multiple aspects inside that to make sure are you achieving something better than what you already have. And the productivity is not about just looking at a 1, 2, or 2 metrics. It's mostly a holistic view. And then given the opportunity for all developers, senior developer, junior developer, given the AI code assistant, have them play around with it, but give them with some guardrails and have them understand have them take the responsibility of the quality of the code. Ultimately, they are the one who generated the code. Let them take the ownership of that, right? So great points. Any last thoughts around this one, Nathan?
Yeah, I agree with the great points that were brought up. And then I would also just point you to the report where we talk about value stream mapping as a practice as well. That practice can really help you identify some of the constraints in your organization. Like Bill mentioned, maybe it's the constraint is going into the turn, and that's our biggest opportunity to improve. Let's look at that. That might show up as something like the code review process. And maybe we can spend some time using AI to help us accelerate and improve our code review processes. But a value stream map can help you identify some of those bottlenecks.
Thank you. Yeah, one last thing is, I know it's you guys talked about the resistance and culture and touched upon in each of them. Like, what are the recommendations that you have when you're going through the journey? And from your standpoint of view, the Bill, maybe I'll start with you. And what's the cultural mindset and the shifts that you guys have to do from your standpoint of view in the last few months?
This is one of my favorite ones. As you heard me talk earlier about seeing this transition and how things happened early in my career, and now seeing this happen again closer to the end of my career, where it's just amazing to see that a couple times in your life, right? But the thing is that everything that we've been doing for the past 20 years is changing. And if people don't jump in line and understand that it's not going to be the same next year, 2 years from now, it'll be different. In 5 years, I can't even imagine what we're going to see. And my job, I feel like, is just getting people prepared for that. If our development process, if the way we do our software development, the way we support software development isn't completely different in the next 2 years, then I've failed miserably. It's just getting everybody ready for change and understanding that these changes are going to help them and make it better and make their lives easier. And I mean, if they're not ready for change, they're not ready. They're going to have issues, right? It's going to be tough for them.
Thank you. Ali?
I think the cultural aspects of it can mean several things, but I think, just to talk about it's true that some people is afraid that AI will take their jobs, as an example, right? So they don't want to adopt because they're kind of against it. What we have been emphasizing, what I like to emphasize is we always have more backlog than what we have capacity, right? And I think that might be true for all companies, but maybe if there's a company that don't, then they have bigger problems. But we always have this huge backlog and we cannot deliver fast enough. So the AI for me it's coming to speed up things and not necessarily to remove jobs, right? So AI will not kill jobs, at least not on on this area, but it will deliver faster, and the demand will continue to increase because of AI. So now with AI, our demand is increasing within the IT organization that we support, our engineering organization as an example. So we have more demand than ever before. We're the delivering faster, and AI is helping with that. So I think people are always afraid of anything new, right? Any new discovery, like, when they discovered fire, it was like, oh my gosh, everybody will catch on fire, but, and then with every single new thing, I am past that, to being afraid of AI. I think AI will help us all, and especially on this area of DevSecOps and development in general.
Wonderful. Yeah, I hear both you and Bill talk more of enabler and equalizer, and also give them an opportunity for them to do more without burning it out. Hopefully that Nathan can bring that burnout concept and plus other things as well.
Yeah, I think that I think that really kind of what I'm hearing is echoes of being ready as an organization and as part of your culture to embrace risk. We're trying new things. Things are going to fail. Experiments are going to fail. And these are all opportunities for us to learn as an organization. And so I think all the way from the leadership down to the individual practitioners, it's important that we show that we're embracing risk, that we're learning these new ways. Some of these lessons are going to be hard. Like, we're not going to necessarily love the lessons that we learned, but as long as we're learning from them, that's going to be valuable for us. And I think that idea of embracing risk and embracing an experimental approach is really foundational to the culture that you have within your organization. And I think that's one of the most important components.
Thank you all, and I really appreciate your feedback and inputs and the recommendations. With that, we'll just turn it over. We'll switch to the 5-minute Opsera overview for the rest of the team, and how we can help, how we're helping you, helping other organizations. We'll quickly cover that, okay? With that, with your permission and the rest of your audience, we'll introduce Opsera is a AI-powered DevOps platform. Our goal and vision is to enable, empower enterprise companies like we have on the call, other companies, to make the software delivery faster, better, secure, which is what we've been talking about it. So how we do it? Using three-pronged approach. The first one is the platform to help streamline the process, and which take the fear out of the equation, make sure that we provide the end-to-end visibility and make it as a templatized way with all the native integrations along with security. And we also provide the auto remediation for you. The important aspect for this conversation today, unified insights from how do we show the code to cloud with enhanced productivity experience, and along with baseline and establishing what was the world before AI, what is the world after AI, and multiple code AI assistants, and not just Copilot plus Cursor, Windsor, many other things. And the important aspect is Nathan is here, and we've been partnering with DORA for the last 4+ years. And we believe that DORA is continuing to be one of the key metrics that we need to have to measure them, and which includes velocity, throughput, and the stability, reliability. And then we also bring the additional dimension like security and quality metrics, and we connect them to the hierarchical organization that you have with the Workday and other things, and be able to give you the persona-based insights. We do have some patterns to support them as well. So we're not just talking about like unified insights in a siloed way. We bring the data in multiple aspects, and how do we catch signals from the noise? And that is where we focus more, and then give you the comprehensive view. We break it down to two parts: inner loop and outer loop, in the new AI world, and you can establish the baselines for both of them, and or combination of that, which Opsera is really good at doing in both ways. Inner loop is nothing but building the code, and outer loop is shipping the code. We have a key measurements inside that. And then how do we bring the code assistance is helping you only in the loop, not in the outer loop, which is how do you, when you generate more code, are you able to ship things faster? If you're shipping things faster, are you breaking things? If you're breaking things, how can you fix things to do break in sometimes, right? How do you recover and how do you remediate them and improve the customer experience, remove the technical debt, and tie them back to outcomes at the end of the day? I know Ali and Bill, Nathan talked about the value stream and outcomes, and which is what we believe as well. Whatever you guys do in inner loop and outer loop, are you able to move the needle in the right direction for the business outcomes, which is what we have as well. So double click that and then see some other view, and of course we can share the slides, but how do you measure both of them and give you the consolidated view, the persona based insights that can measure by organization, by sprint, and by product, and by release? You can do a lot more things so that you can establish the baseline and continue to track yourself along the way, whether it be co-pilot and commit statistics, story points, and the cycle time, lead time within that inner loop. Compare the same thing with the what you have and how you're able to ship things faster, and with MTTR, change failure rate, along with technical debt, security, quality, and system driven maturity. So customers who we have using, and they obviously there is a significant improvement, and not about acceptance and suggestions. We also can improve the code completion, productivity, and quality, security as well. But just some of the industry benchmark that we have seen, the people are using at a peak level, that they're able to see at a minimum of this one, which aligns slightly higher than what Nathan talked about at 13%. We see about 18 to 20% if you do it at scale, and on 1,000 plus engineers organization. So the value of big picture, and I think this is where my favorite slide from my Opsera standpoint of view. It's not about one thing that can touch us up, and which is where I think Bill touched upon it, and to some degree Ali as well. So we have to take the equation from multiple sources, right? The data come from multiple sources, and we normalize and sequence contextualization across source code wherever the developer lives, right? IDE and source code, planning tools, and security, quality, and then break it down to inner loop and outer loop. And within that inner loop and outer loop, how do you measure each of them, and how we can provide the Hummingbird AI reasoning agent along with it. So not just providing the dashboards. Hummingbird AI reasoning agent is one of the unique thing in the market, in the landscape right now. You can interact with Hummingbird, and as if you interact with your assistant, and you can get answers for you, and you're able to see how the innovation, time to market, developer experience, productivity, customer experience, because we take the data from both internal tools and as well as external tools. For example, you have Jira, maybe internal tool, external tool, maybe Zendesk, or maybe Jira is a same tool. We'll be able to connect the dots. Okay, the things that you shipped it, how customers are seeing it, what value that they're seeing it, are you seeing more bugs, more issues, and so on and so forth. And you'll be able to make some decisions around that. You can also get the ROI. You can interact with Hummingbird AI and get the ROI as well. You can sign up, and I'm happy to show the demo as well. Some of the aspects that you see, how we bring the data together in the leadership side. If you see the left to right, Copilot and Throughput are the more in the loop, and velocity, quality, and outer loop. How do you tie them back together? You can zoom through that, double click each of them, and you can understand the impact, throughput, velocity, and quality, security, and across the SDLC lifecycle, not just a particular aspect of it, across the SDLC lifecycle. And again, those goes back to what Nathan talked about it. There are ways you can have it when you establish the baseline, and you can establish a baseline by team and by product. You don't have to just go with elite, high, medium, and low across the organization. You can customize this thing, because you should do that. I'll let maybe Nathan talk about it towards the end to clarify that. You don't want to, like a lot of people have misconception that I want to be an elite. The definition of elite varies from team to team and with organization to organization. You can we can help you with that, and you can also understand how you can, once you have a baseline, you can define within the baseline what is elite looks like, high and medium, low looks like, both throughput and stability as well. And we have a way to show the double click version of the insights, and you can go with insights and DORA metrics, and each of them have its own metric. We talked about benchmark. You can benchmark them and then measure it, see how well you're faring across, and also interact with the AI agent and get the insights around Hummingbird reasoning agent, and you can do troubleshoot things faster and fix things faster as well, and better compliance reporting. And because we provide the quality, security. One of the customers, we were talking about it this morning or yesterday, they want to see it's not about what is you're building as a new, how much you're spending, and the things that are already running in production, how much time you're spending, which could be technical debt, or the things that are running in production. And are you spending more time in enhancements? Are you fixing the quality issues? Are you fixing the security issues? and tie them back to the how much time that has been consumed by the things that are already working in production versus things that can produce it. It goes back to demand and supply, right? How do you measure? How do you factor your demand and supply? And then you have to have a feedback loop mechanism. It's not like you want to just show the metrics, and there should be a feedback loop mechanism where you can improve upon it in real time, and not only just seeing the dashboards and the metrics, but you need to be in a position to interact with it with the AI and unearth the data that you will not be able to do it. And how do you find the correlate the data between deployment frequency to the MTTR to change failure rate to your AI adoption? We can bring the data together. You can ask questions as well. So that's a quick summary. We have about a lot of the 100 plus KPIs you can use from dashboards, code to cloud. Hummingbird AI reasoning agent will give you the information, and then you can ask questions. We can give the trend graphs. You can dynamically dashboards per persona, dashboards per team, and we have integration to Workday that can bring the holistic view of the across the organization by CTO, by VP of director of portfolio management as well. With that, and that's a quick summary. And if you want to sign up, and please sign up under by QR code, and then you can sign up for the demo and sign up for the free trial of a 14-day free trial. And happy to do it without any strings attached as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kumar. We want to end with we want to give you guys the chance to ask Nathan, Kumar, Ale, and Bill any questions at all. So in the Q&A section, if you can just send in your questions, we'd love to take them in the last couple minutes we have of the webinar.
I just want to add one thing, and I know this slide having a problem. I think so. We're proud to inform you that one of the customer that worked with us, and we partner with them along with DORA, and they had a massive transformation, software modernization, and kudos to Honeywell team, and they were adopting the practices. And I know, like, we would love to see the Eaton and the NextEra Energy and the companies like that in this list. So they've been through this process, and they can learn a lot. And then Nathan and team really went through the bunch of companies a couple of months back, and they clearly outlined that it's not about winning the award. It's about what made them, what are the things that they've done to get to that stage. And you can see the measurable impact, solution, challenge. And we're proud to be partner with them. And just want to call out both DORA as well as Honeywell for giving the opportunity and the enterprise scale transformation. It is possible. It can happen. Just want to give the reassurance that it's just about discipline and execution. Okay, sorry, Yusra, please take it over.
No worries at all. Just wanted to give people an opportunity to send in their questions through the Q&A tab at the bottom of the webinar. And so we'll take those questions.
I'll stop sharing them or keep the QR code.
Alrighty, receiving one question. They're asking, what do you see as a benefit of DORA and these metrics for leadership specifically?
Okay, I'll turn it over to Nathan to start with it because he's the best person to explain. Along with Bill and Ali, they report the data every day, every week.
Yeah, I would say one of the best benefits for leaders when it comes to DORA and specifically the software delivery performance metrics is that these metrics give your teams a tool to help assess how they're doing, what direction they're heading. Are they improving? Are they staying the same? Are they falling behind? And so just having those insights allows leaders to understand how each team is doing and then to invest in the teams in the right way. Maybe you have some teams in your organization that are really thriving and others that are really struggling. As a leader, you might want to connect these two teams so that those that are struggling can learn new insights from the teams that are really thriving. I think that's what's really important there.
Invite maybe Bill and Ali to share from your perspective.
Yeah, I think the DORA metrics is the basics, really. I mean, if you don't have the minimum, which is the DORA metrics, you don't really know what's going on. If you want to improve or even, let's say, prioritize, right? So let's say you're struggling on multiple teams delivering or quality or whatever, which applications or products align with your top goals, priorities for your company. And if you're struggling on some of them, then you got to prioritize them. So it gives you, data so you can make informed decisions, and it's basic data, and it's like, it's basic, but it's complicated to get, right? But it's the minimum that you should have. And then from DORA, you should have all your extra metrics as well. But I would recommend now is start with DORA.
Thank you. Bill?
I go with it the same similar to both of them, maybe just in between. I like to use it to find out where I need to spend my effort to improve, but also as a measurement so you know that you're actually moving in the right direction. If you don't measure, then you can't know if you're improving or not.
Yeah, it's all good old saying, right? You can't fix it for the things that you can't even measure and monitor, right? So that's the good old, it's applicable to everywhere. It's not just technology, it's people, process, product, and technology. You have to have some kind of guardrails to ensure that it could be car racing analogy, it could be gym analogy, could be like anything that you guys have it. So both are important, and I think it's just the foundational elements of that. Like you said, Ali mentioned basic foundational element. We can go ahead, Bill. You say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I I I agree 100% with what you're saying, and that's what the reason we started using it. But I thought it was interesting that I found in my journey that it also helped me identify where to spend the time to help people and to make teams better. That was something that came out that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. It's one thing to figure it out which team you have problems with, like, oh, you're not deploying value frequent enough, or your quality is bad. But then from there, you need to figure it out where the bottleneck is. And that, I would say that Opsera Insights, really give you that more detail. Because then, you don't know what cycle of DevSecOps the team is struggling. It might not be development. I'm surprised to see that a lot of it's not the development phase. It's either the testing phase, or surprisingly the requirements phase, right? Or not meeting the requirements, so you need to be better on requirements. So it's super important to have something like Opsera Insights that you can drill down to the information, so you can then see which cycle of DevSecOps is struggling and then prioritize that.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Ali and Bill, for giving your inputs and recommendations. Nathan, any final thoughts?
I guess my final thought is thank you all for attending today. And I look forward to hearing more about how you take our research findings and put them into context of your own teams and organizations and put them into practice. I think that's the most important thing here. And I want to congratulate Ali and Bill for doing the same with their own organizations and really driving this process of continuous learning and continuous improvement.
Yeah, I just please allow me to thank Nathan for graciously joining us and providing the industry report, and as well as thoughts and from the other companies. And thank you, Bill and Ali. We can't thank you enough for not only sharing your observations and feedback, and also giving the shout out to Opsera and from based on what you're seeing it. Also, some of the best practices and some of the scars that you had in the last couple of years, 3 years of going the AI adoption journey and providing your views. It's very, very important to give the reassurance in the industry and making sure that AI is not taking the jobs away. It's going to enable her, and while also providing the value to them through previous transformation that Billy talked about it, right? Software transformation that happened in 90s and now it's 2020 plus, right? So how it is going to transform the new SDLC along with AI. It's really fascinating, and thank you all three of you. Appreciate your rest of the team for participation and providing the inputs.
Thank you, our pleasure.
Awesome. And just to end, housekeeping again, we are recording this call, so we'll be sending it out to everyone that registered and attended. And thanks so much for your participation with the polls and the Q&A. We greatly appreciate it.